Hi, Polly here. Yum. Hi. So, I want to look at a fave from probably my favourite company, good old Chaosium. So, Chaosium back in the day, they did RuneQuest, which I adore. Now, RuneQuest was a game that has a skill-based system where characters have skills expressed as percentile chances of success. You roll percentile dice, you have to get that number or less in order for the skill to succeed. Their combat system had a hit location system: head, chest, abdomen, arms, legs. You armored these different areas. There was a rigid armor value. When you hit, you subtracted the armor from the damage. That was how much damage your character took. So a slightly complex system for hand-to-hand combat, but visual. However, they went on and they did a role-playing game based on Michael Moorcock's classic Elric of Melnibone stories. This is my beloved 3rd edition. I did have earlier ones, but this is 3rd edition. This is actually the Games Workshop produced one. But Stormbringer, I loved the thing. So this is a dark fantasy world. It's definitely written in the LSD age. This is guys in purple pants and brocaded capes with their giant black singing swords cleaving people in two, while behind them a giant ship that somehow sails through the earth as if it is water, plows through the landscape, and whee! Definitely great fun. So, Stormbringer. What they did, and why this is still a good game today, was create a really nice game system that had a bit more simplicity to it than the RuneQuest system, but had some very unique magic and had some very unique ways of differentiating between characters that were all human. So, Moorcock, Mike Moorcock, of course, did the Elric books. These are classics of the actual sword and sorcery genre. Unlike most sword and sorcery is entirely human-centric, Conan, etc. The Elric books bring in the fact that there's been this older magical master race, the Melnibonéans, and these guys look a little bit as you would imagine sort of an elf. They're quite chiseled features, pointy ears and so on, and these guys are absolute psychos. They are children of the Lords of Chaos, so these guys, blood sacrifice, they will torture people by cutting chunks off them and frying them up on a barbecue. They've got this decadent, nigh diseased civilization. Over thousands of years, they're basically on this horrible golden isle, and the rest of the world is all humans. Now, our problem with the game, of course, is that it is set in the world of Elric of Melnibone, and the books, they kind of define the world as the books go on. So as the character kind of blunders into them, it's like, oh yeah, there's a kingdom over here. Oh yeah, these people do this. It's not, love you, Mike, but it's not a world that's got a huge amount of depth of detail to the bits that weren't Melnibonéan. They're just places for our main character to blunder through and kill some people as he goes on a quest to do something else. And of course, it's a world that gets destroyed in the course of the books. A dark prospect if you want to set up a character in it. However, you can lift a lot of this out and put it elsewhere. And Mike's works, of course, exist in a multiverse, so you can lift these concepts and carry them across to your own worlds of your own imagination, because the idea was this is a place of many, many worlds. So what they did was, because this is going to be largely human-centric, because the Melnibonéans don't travel much, some of them do as they flee their destroyed civilization, they decided they would put differences between different human national types. So they decided if you were from one of these very Mongol-style step-riding cultures, all right, everyone gets a base 3d6 in most of the characteristics, but these Mongol guys, we're going to up their constitution a bit because they're out there living a hard lifestyle. We're going to limit their ability to get deep book learning and so on, but we're going to give them lots of knowledge of nature and knowledge of hunting, and we're going to give them magical abilities that will allow them to, more tune into things that will suit that environment. These people over here, there's like this sophisticated sorcerer's isle. These people, they tend to highly educate their folk and so on, but they're nowhere near as outdoorsy. So you're going to lose some on strength and so on. We're going to give you bonuses to your intelligence. So they gave you these sort of little plus d4, minus d4 kind of variances and different dice that you rolled, so that there was some colour to choosing where you came from, as opposed to 3d6 for everyone. So it was a nice idea. You could run around and kind of cherry pick where you came from, so that would kind of maximize what sort of character you could play, because like RuneQuest, of course, using this, what's now become the basic role-playing system, your characteristics are very important because they give you bonuses to all of the different skills. Now, once again, initially Stormbringer was done in chunks of 5%. As you look through things, this gives you they changed this back and forth a bit. So by 3rd edition, it's going up in individual percentage points. All right, that's okay. Makes it a bit more chaotic, which is what this was all about. So the neat thing about this game was they removed all those hit location things. So they've kept the damage, they've kept the ability to parry incoming shots and so on. But what your armor is now is your armor is also a dice, and when you are hit, roll dice for damage, roll dice for your armor, subtract the armor from the damage, and what remains comes off your hit point total. If you take more than half those hit points in a single go, then that is a serious wound which has more serious consequences. But it was more abstracted, but therefore faster to play, and so it was actually it's actually a good choice if you want that sort of faster play. Also, it also means for fantasy play, because those wounds are more abstracted. The problem with RuneQuest is, you lose bits of yourself. Oh, my arm's gone. Oh, that took my whole leg off. Kind of sword and sorcery, we often don't want that. We want a mysterious wound that, me krills are splurned, but you keep going. You can somehow grit it forward and just keep on with that quest without worrying too much about the fact that your shoes no longer fit because your leg's back there on the steps. So it's a nice system. It works extremely well. The setting of Moorcock's work is a struggle between law and chaos, and law is not necessarily good. Oddly enough, chaos is not necessarily evil, but they tend to express themselves sort of as that because of the personalities and so on that go towards them. The higher ups, the higher powers that sort of run these are completely amoral and would quite happily kill you and many baskets of kittens to achieve their aims. So part of the tale of the Eternal Champion is, of course, trying to strike a balance between these cosmic bastards. So you are part of this struggle. You can align yourself with law or chaos and so on, and these do get you different things. This is a world in the Elric setting that's largely controlled by chaos. So the chaos gods are there. And this is where the magic system became fun. You summon stuff. You don't cast spells and have effects in this. It all comes from making pacts with these powers. You can then summon entities and they will do things for you. They can be quite small entities, which are kind of expressed as elementals, or they can be demons, which are basically demi-sentient, non-sentient, or fully sentient forces that you can summon. And you can bind them into things and shape them into things, and that's where the magic comes from. So a sorcerer isn't dangerous because he can go kapow, and suddenly, you've got lightning bolt, or suddenly it's a meteor swarm. The sorcerer is dangerous because he's made a pact and he's summoned a demon, and the overall points of that demon, he could use that as an attack creature, or he could turn that into a sword, or he could turn that into armor, and that armor has points of damage that it absorbs before it gets through to the actual guy inside it. So you can summon a demon and it's your armor. I have 50-point demon armor. You've got to do 50 points of damage to me before I take anything. That's why sorcerers are dangerous. Some of the elementally things could express themselves as a fire elemental or whatever, and you could use that. I'm binding that into my sword, and I can project like a fire ball from that sword, but it will actually use power from the demon. So it can't do it all the time, and you might even essentially dissipate it if you turn up all its power. So a lot of resource management there. You can also ask questions of these things. They will give you guidance and so on, depending on how you summon them. And so Elric himself, there he is with his black sword, Elrod of Melnibone, with his black sword. See ya, sucker. That's a joke, boy. This is just a demon entity, an incredibly powerful one, and its powers are expressed as it sucks out souls and life points when it hits, and cleaves through armor and bleeds any life that it steals into its user, so it gives them extra strength and repairs their damage. So it's a really nice system. It's an incredibly unusual look at magic in role-playing games. This hasn't really been done before or since. Now, there are some games that have tried to simulate this, as in they've effectively done Stormbringer but filed off all of the serial numbers, and some of those are out there, but this game's still out. You can find it out there on good old drive-through and so on, so why not use the original? That setting of Elric may not be for you. I know it really wasn't for me, and it wasn't for my group. The fact that it's this kind of doomed world, so anything you build is like, well, why bother? I mean, has the Dragon Isle fallen? Well, all this place goes up in fire in about 11 minutes time. So, but to lift that out into a broader world that you're doing, or go start traveling other planes, is great. That sorcery idea where they're not abstracted kapew effects, but actually, again, using those incredible simple tools that the basic role-playing system gives you, the fact that these are now taken as points that you can move and use and create and design what you need as you summon these things. Summon these things is dangerous, by the way. You have to be sure of yourself. If you flub these things, they'll eat you. So this isn't just for anybody, and it's a very dangerous thing to be doing. But it's kind of means everyone's kind of in the same heroic bucket. There's not someone who's good at casting spells and so on, but isn't much use. He does two things and then he has to go to the back of the party and wait till he goes to sleep before he's useful again. He might be intellectual and not as rough and tough as everybody, but he can make up for that. So I think it was kind of an interesting system because it makes you more involved. It keeps the parties from diverging into sort of dinosaurian specializations that are each helpless on their own, and it's a really different way of achieving magic in a game. Stormbringer, or Elric of Melnibone, depending on which version you get. Go and take a look. If you haven't played, great game. If you have played, have a little think about taking a look at it again and pulling some of those wonderful magical systems and that system of varying different human cultures by expressing them as different characteristic bonuses and different skill bonuses and so on, to put a bit more colour in the next humanocentric thing that you want to run. I think this should be the model you take a look for, and it's not racist, it's just putting in more colour. The steppe people are going to be different from the seafaring people are going to be different from the intellectual people. It's a nice way of just putting some more choices and putting a lot more depth into a humanocentric world, because there's a lot more sword and sorcery stuff out there. So Stormbringer, go take it a look. Blood and souls for my Lord Ariok. Cheers.